I know. I know, Piggy. I know. We're going live. You got something to say. Good morning. I'm here with my little pig today who has a lot to say. So she seemed to want to come up on my lap, so here she is. This is Pig, for those of you that don't know her, and she oinks like a pig. And she's here to assist me today. We just had a guy come to work on our pool, and so Pig was all up in arms about it, so I picked her up. Hopefully she will calm down. We will see. Right, Pig? Yeah. Can't say that Pig knows much about men's health, but that's what we're talking about today. You know, last week, I spent a whole episode talking about menopause, and I told you, men, I'd come back to you. I told you I would, so here we are. I'm going to talk a little bit about men's health today. And for you women out there, if you have a man in your life, hopefully this will be very helpful for you. They were kind enough to sit through that menopause talk, so we're going to talk about the prostate today, which only applies to 50% of you, right? And not to Piggy, who's still very upset that somebody came to our house. So how's everyone doing today? Happy Thursday. It's almost the end of October. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. My kids yesterday said, well, we haven't bought our Halloween costumes. And I was like, oh my God, like I haven't even thought about Halloween. It hasn't even crossed my mind. Right? All right. You're going to be good? All right. So, not menopause today. We're going to talk about prostate today. We're going to talk about the prostate, right? What is it? What can you eat for it? What's the current research on it? What are natural therapies? All sorts of fun stuff, okay? So let's let the little pig down and hopefully she will behave. I'll get her a treat. It was like preschool here with her today. That every toy that she has is spread out all over my office. So, you know. All right. So there are actually certain diets and foods that actually really benefit the prostate. In fact, the prostate is highly responding to plant-based and natural therapies. Go lay down. Go lay down. She's going to be a little bugger today, I think. All right. So, and most men don't want to talk about this. Just as we don't want to talk about some of our women problems, they don't necessarily want to talk about their men problems either. I don't want to talk about the prostate. Definitely don't want to get a prostate exam. That's no fun, right? But the bottom line is we have to talk about it because this is very, very common in men. So enlarged prostates can be helped naturally. Okay, we don't always have to use the medications. The medications are commonly prescribed, and I think in some cases they might be warranted, or at least warranted for a short while. You repair the problem. The prostate is no different from anything else that I treat in that I need to find out why it's being impacted, not just that it is being impacted. Happy Thursday, everyone. Nice to see you. Snow in Texas? What? Really? It's like 95 here. It's gorgeous, though. I'll take it. So one of the most common causes that I find of prostate issues, and I'm going to spend some time talking about today, is estrogen. That's right, guys. You have estrogen, too. It's not just us women. You do, too. And it can cause problems for you just like it can for us. Anytime that hormones are out of balance, guys, it doesn't matter what's out of balance. Anytime the endocrine system is out of balance, there's going to be a problem, okay? Just having my husband grab Pig because she's a little hyper today. So what we're looking at is the whole she's okay. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Crazy dog. And then I tried to get her out of here, and then she decided to take a nap. What can I say? Okay, so what you're looking at with men is something very similar to what you're looking at with women when they start to have problems with their hormones, and it's something called estrogen dominance, okay? So testosterone can turn into estrogen, all right? And when that happens, guess what happens? Testosterone levels drop and estrogen goes up. Now, one of the main things that you may have screened every time you go to the doctor are your testosterone levels, right? So you find your testosterone levels are dropping, and what's the first thing that the doctor typically does? They give you testosterone, right? They may give it to you in a gel or a cream or a sublingual injection, whatever. The problem is if the testosterone is low because it's converting into estrogen, then when you give more testosterone, what's going to happen? It's going to convert more into estrogen, right? So then you're actually worsening the problem. So testosterone therapy is not always the right answer at first. Often, if you spend more time looking at the cause, getting rid of the extra estrogen, and we'll talk about that, the testosterone will naturally go up. And if it doesn't go up enough, at that point, you can add a little bit more and you have a lower risk of it turning into estrogen, particularly if you use some of the natural aromatase inhibitors that you can use. So all of these medications out there for prostate health, or even for hair loss in men, a lot of these men products are blocking the conversion to dihydrotestosterone or to estrogen, okay? As I've said in the past, anytime you officially block something in the body, it tries to find a workaround. And when it finds that workaround, that's where you get side effects, okay? So if you have a freeway and you close an off-ramp, you need to give an actual very clear detour, otherwise you're gonna have problems, right? Your ride's gonna be extended by time because you didn't plan it out. Does that make sense? So it's the same with testosterone and estrogen. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You guys excited about it? Are you men psyched? I'm talking about you today. There's many of you out there listening about women's problems all the time. Okay? Now, one more thing to consider, and of course this applies to both sexes, but let's just talk about men for a moment. Testosterone is made and signaled to be made by a response to the stress on the body. So if you're running from a bear, right? You're running from a bear every single day. You're go, 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 go. You're not going to think, oh, let's stop and reproduce. Let's stop and produce testosterone. So what happens when men have adrenal fatigue or they're under too much stress is the testosterone converts into estrogen. So you have to look at the adrenal glands, you have to look at the prostate gland, you have to look at the testosterone and estrogen, and you have to come at it in a holistic manner in order to fix the problem. Testosterone is not always the answer. And you see this a ton in people that take high-dose testosterone, right? What are the side effects of that? Right? They always say, oh, well, they become more feminine, or they start to, develop breast tissue, or, they start to cry at everything. Why? Well, because it's converting into estrogen, right? How the testosterone is used matters. I would rather a man have a lower testosterone level that's used efficiently than a higher testosterone level, to hit the number that supposedly you're supposed to have, but it's turning into estrogen and not only damaging, their prostate health, but also their mood, their muscles, their body, their energy, right? We don't need that. So I think more is not always necessarily better. It's better to utilize the testosterone that you have efficiently than to jam it levels up. Does that make sense? Especially if you're under stress. If you're a man under stress, it impacts your hormone regulation. So we're going to talk a lot about this. We're going to talk about what the prostate is, for those of you that may not know. You'd think you'd know, but sometimes you don't, right? You're just like, oh, I know that men have one, but what exactly is it? So let's talk about that. So first of all, I want to say that an enlarged prostate gland is ridiculously common among men. Okay. In fact, by the time a man is 60 years old, there's a 50-50 chance that he will have an enlarged prostate. Okay. 50-50 chance. So it's probably going to happen to many of you if it hasn't already. Okay. But what is the prostate gland? So only males have a prostate gland. All right. The prostate gland produces semen. Okay. And it sits right around that area between the bladder. But more importantly to understand is that the prostate wraps around the urethra, okay? And the urethra is how we urinate or release semen. So it wraps around it. So if the prostate gland enlarges, it can compress the urethra. And that's why when you go to the doctor, you're asked, well, has there been any changes in urination? Right? Are you urinating in the middle of the night? Are you having trouble stopping stream? The reason those are asked is because it's a very pivotal part. It's a very good key as to if there's good flow through there. If there's not good flow, usually it indicates that the prostate is causing some sort of problem because it literally wraps around it. Does that make sense? So an enlarged prostate is also known as BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia. And all that means is it's non-cancerous, it's the prostate, and it's getting larger. Those are what those names mean. Affects many men over the age of 50. I have seen it affect men younger, particularly those under stress. Most of them with low testosterone levels or chronic use of supplemental testosterone can cause it as well. Good morning. Hello. You're excited, Tommy? Awesome. As men age naturally, if we were just take a non-stressed male, as you age naturally, your testosterone levels drop. Similar to women, our levels drop. It shouldn't be overly cumbersome. It shouldn't be rapid. It should just be a gradual decline. But if they're dropping a little bit more rapidly, or in cases where perhaps you have some excess body weight, some underlying conditions, excessive stress, what can happen is the testosterone can actually turn into estrogen. Now, there are different types of estrogen. Primarily, what I look at are estradiol and estrogen. Now, many primary care physicians will look at total testosterone and estradiol, and they come back low and they give estrogen. I want to just point something out to you men. Ask for estrone, not estradiol, or estradiol plus estrone, okay? Because often estradiol will be low because it's also converting into estrone. It's estrone that causes the problems in the prostate, okay? Testosterone can turn into estrone, the O-N-E. They like to store and move back and forth. Also, while I'm on the note of total testosterone, there's a difference between total testosterone and free testosterone. So as I said earlier, just a few minutes ago, I said I'd rather have a man who has lower testosterone levels with better utilization. So if the total testosterone is low, but the free testosterone is, mid-range, they're doing pretty well. They're using what they have. So total means everything, whether it's bound or whether it's free. So whether it's being metabolically active or whether it's attached to a little globulin just sitting there waiting, right? Free testosterone tells us which ones are actually floating around. The ones floating around have more bioavailability, okay? So if they're stuck to a globulin, they're just hanging out on the couch, just waiting, right? They're not doing anything. So the total testosterone, although I do run it because I like to keep an eye on it, is not a deciding factor for me whether or not I use testosterone therapy. It's just a marker. It just tells me, all right, they're at 600 or they're at 800 or they're at 200. But then looking at the free testosterone tells me whether or not it's being well utilized. And then looking at the estradiol and the estrone tells me whether or not it's being stored. Okay? All of those factors matter. Also, very important, DHEA and cortisol. How much are the adrenal glands impacted by this guy's lifestyle, right? These are all things to play into a decision on what you do, okay? Okay, Facebook got way quiet. You guys all right? I know, I get on a roll. What can I say? So all these factors need to be at play. So the bottom line is when you're being assessed as a man for testosterone levels, make sure you're looking at the estrogen levels and make sure you're looking at the prostate numbers like the PSA and looking at all these conversions, okay? Just as, here's the thing. We're not all created equal. Not every man is the same. And I have some men that have a total testosterone of 400 and they feel great and they have great muscle tone and they have great energy and they're sleeping well and they have strong muscles. And I have men who are up in the 800 or 900 and they're completely the opposite. They're a mess. They're not sleeping. Their energy sucks. They can't build muscle tone, right? Total testosterone does not necessarily dictate that. It's how it's being used. Okay? Does that make sense? You're here and excited. I got it. All right, good. All right. So not all men are created equal. And your lifestyle isn't the same either, right? Somebody who exercises more is going to need a different amount of hormone than somebody who doesn't. Okay? So we're all different. We have to think about that. So there are also very strong links between the development of enlarged prostate and other conditions, primarily diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and inflammatory conditions, or other inflammatory conditions, excuse me. There's a few reasons. Now try to keep up with me here, okay? Because I'm going to get excited. All right. So first of all of these conditions I just named are inflammatory in nature, right? And an enlarged prostate is inflammatory in nature. Okay. So inflammation, right? inflammatory conditions cause stress on the body, internal stress, right? So that continues to put more stress on the adrenal glands, which puts more stress on whether or not you make testosterone and use it effectively, okay? Improper blood sugar leads to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to obesity. Guess what likes to store estrogen? Ding, 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 fat. So the more fat tissue you have, the more likelihood that you're going to store more estrogen, okay? Take it easy. Really? You don't like my energy? Okay, so high inflammatory fat diets, eating lots of red meats, smoked meats, processed foods have been linked in research to more prostate problems. Makes sense to me because it's causing a more inflammatory state, right? And that inflammatory state causes more disease development, okay? So, it's a vicious cycle. And there's been a ton of research on plant-based diets, high nutritional mineral diets on the prostate for this exact reason, because this inflammatory condition is not good for the prostate, okay? It's also very stressful on the body, okay? So, and that's going to affect your testosterone, which is going to affect your estrogen. Following me? Kind of? More coffee? Good morning. Easy, doc. Come on, Vic, you never tell me to take it easy. You always tell me to keep going. All right, so what are some of the symptoms that something may be going on with your prostate or your loved one's prostate, right? We know about urinary symptoms, right? I think we're all asked that when you go to the doctor, even women as well. But let me tell you what some of those are. And they could be all of these, one of these, multiple of these, changes in these. Trouble urinating, frequent urination, urgent need to urinate, limited urine stream, or the inability to start and stop urine is a common side effect of this situation. Dribbling or urinary incontinence, okay? All of those are very common, and that's why when a man goes for his regular visit, you're asked a lot about your urine because they're trying to assess, is the prostate compressing the urethra, okay? PSA is another way you can look at it, by the way, in the blood. Now that comes across as different things. It could be prostatitis, it could be prostate cancer, it could be enlarged prostate. So we're going to talk about those different situations in just a moment, okay? Hang tight with me. On top of these changes, though, in urine, the other things that I find are a side effect of the hormone imbalance. So what are some of the things that men feel when their hormones are out of whack? Fatigue, depression. Yes, dribbling. It's the fun stuff you don't want to talk about, right? Fatigue, low adrenal function, low testosterone levels. You don't feel right. Okay, depression's very common. Just not feeling right. I don't have any other way to say it. That's what I get from most of my men clients that come to me with this. They say, Doc, I just don't feel right. I can't pinpoint it. I don't have the energy I want. I just don't feel like I used to. So that definitely is a huge concern of men with this. Insomnia. When the testosterone levels drop, and I do find also correlating when the estrogen levels go up, insomnia can become a real issue, particularly if the body's also under stress with either other underlying conditions or just lifestyle stress, which is common, right, nowadays. Low sex drive, of course. If your testosterone levels are going down because it's converting into estrogen, you're not going to be as interested as having sex, or it's not going to be as enjoyable as it used to be. So that's something to watch as well. Doesn't always happen though. I've seen men that are on tons of testosterone and have no sex drive. So the bottom line is, I don't think it's simply about the testosterone. It goes with how it converts, where it stores, what the stress impact is, and all of that. Ruben asked about age. What do you mean about age? As far as age of this happening? Clarify for me and I'll try to answer for you, Ruben. Okay? There's other things that can occur if you don't treat this enlarged prostate, such as blood in the urine, regular urinary tract infections, damage to the bladder, damage to the kidneys, bladder stones. Okay, so this can move on to other things. There are tons of natural options, though, for treating BPH, which is great. There are medications. These medications are blockers. They're typically a 5-alpha reductase blocker. I don't usually, and I'll tell you what that means, I promise. They don't usually see conventional doctors using aromatase blockers, but in the natural world, we block 2 enzymes. We block 5-alpha reductase, or not block, we divert 5-alpha reductase and aromatase. Once again, for those of you that's joining, when you use medications that block enzymes for something, it's kind of like just putting a blockade in the middle of the freeway, right? If you don't tell people where to go, it's going to get backed up, right? And you're going to have unexpected consequences like side effects. So in the natural world, our substances and herbs and stuff don't tend to block. They tend to just kind of divert. It's like, okay, well, instead of going here, go here, right? So we don't have as many side effects. That's the beauty of it. And that's kind of the simplistic way of stating it. So 5-alpha reductase blocks is the enzyme that's involved in the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. So things for hair loss, like Propecia, for example, is a 5-alpha reductase blocker. Flomax for the prostate is a 5-alpha reductase blocker. The problem with that, and you may have heard this, is a lot of people who take Flomax for the prostate end up getting elevated estrogen levels. Why? Right? Because testosterone is here and it basically does 2 things. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Hold on. I'm going to draw something. Bear with me. This is very simple, folks. Testosterone can go to DHT, which is responsible for enlarged prostate, hair loss, things like that. So the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor will block that. It'll block it from going that direction, but then you end up with a higher amount of testosterone. Then what? What happens? If you're under a lot of stress, you have a lot of excess fat on the body, testosterone can still turn into estrogen, right? Because there's another enzyme here, and that's called aromatase. So, in my opinion, when it comes to helping a man's prostate, you have to divert both enzymes. You have to pay attention to 5-alpha reductase, which would be things like saw palmetto. We'll talk about those. And you also have to use things to help with aromatase to slow the conversion into estrogen. Okay? And those are things like DIM, indole-3-carbinol, calcium D-glucarate. I'll talk about that as well. So if you downregulate both of these, right? You say, okay, we're going to divert you. Then don't draw. Vic, what's up with you today? What happens is, I'm going to talk about zinc. Hang on tight. What happens is you end up with more testosterone, right? And that's great if you're active. So then you've got the lifestyle factor. So that's where the diet, the exercise come into play. You end up with more testosterone there. You're not diverting it to these other areas as much, but you also don't just want it to sit there. You want to burn it and use it. And that's where the diet, the lifestyle, the exercise come into play. I did have, could I place it closer to the camera? Yeah. Testosterone, hang on, Instagram. Testosterone, DHT, estrogen. You guys see too? Don't draw. Ha ha ha. So, zinc is a big one, and I am going to talk about that because there's some awesome research on zinc with the prostate, and in fact, people with prostate cancer tend to be low in zinc. And I know I've talked about zinc. I did a live on zinc. You all know that I take a zinc. I sell a zinc. We've talked about it for the immune system. We've talked about it for, how important it is for that virus that no one can mention. Zinc is critical, okay? And it's critical to the prostate. So we are going to talk about that. There's a ton of research on that. So does that make sense? Why treating, my whole point of telling you this, guys, is that this is why just adding a medication to the mix does not always solve the underlying cause or the problem. And why we get so many side effects often with it. Not always. If I'm paying attention to all those things and somebody's on Flomax and all their numbers are holding well, I don't worry too much about it. But if their numbers are all over the place, then I have to do something about it, right? So I think what happens is so often men are just given a pill and then there isn't this follow-up. There isn't this communication about, well, what's happening now because of that pill. Does that make sense? That's why I explain it. For those of you that don't like biochemistry, it's cool. You can go grab a cup of coffee and come back with a quick go-tos, but I like patients to understand. I like you to get where I'm coming from because the bottom line is there are multiple pathways for things in our body, and testosterone to estrogen and testosterone to DHT are both a factor to consider for the health of your prostate, okay? So, Let's move on real quick. I want to touch on what prostatitis is, because that's another condition of the prostate, which is inflammation of the prostate. Most of the time it's due to infection, okay? The most primary cause is bacterial. The secondary cause is sexually transmitted. So a virus from sexually transmission or bacterial infection. Prostatitis can be chronic or acute. So sometimes it just happens once and you often are treated with an antibiotic and there you go. But what happens if it keeps coming back, right? You know, in my opinion, taking antibiotics repetitively is not good for your overall health because you're killing off your good gut flora as well, right? So how do you treat a reoccurring prostatitis, but not have damage to the rest of your immune system and your health? And that is something that I'm asked quite a bit. And once again, it's looking at, are there some complementary treatments like herbal antimicrobials, or hot and cold therapy is used quite a lot, sitz baths, acupuncture, relaxation therapy, physical therapy. There's a lot of substances you can avoid that can irritate the bladder and start this process. Caffeine, alcohol, spicy foods, you know, some of those can also cause issues. So if you're someone that's dealing with prostatitis, I do encourage you to not just simply jump at antibiotics without considering the impact of that. I do recommend probiotics for somebody that's dealing with recurrent infections in general, because that's what our good bugs are for, or to help us not get new bugs. Big pig, quit barking. Come here. Come here. She's crazy. All right, prostate cancer. Now, you guys know I'm not an expert in cancer. It's not something I treat regularly. I have a colleague I refer to. I've had him as a guest, Dr. Jake Pasenka. In fact, he just sent me a couple articles, really cool. I probably will bring him back on to talk about them, but in regards to zinc and prostate cancer and prevention of prostate cancer and lowering the severity of impact from taking zinc, okay? Now, zinc is very prevalent in pumpkin seeds. Come on. Okay, and that's why often pumpkin seed oil is used for prostate, or a lot of prostate formulas, is to get the zinc. I was asked how much zinc most goes somewhere. It depends on the form of zinc you're taking, okay? First of all, if you don't know what form of zinc you should be taking, check out my live on zinc, because I will tell you, zinc sulfate, zinc gluconate, not going to do it, okay? You're going to want a zinc bisglycinate or a zinc picolinate. My total zinc at Total Health Apothecary is 50 milligrams of zinc bisglycinate, which would absolutely be a good point. You should always talk to your doctor about how much to take, but in general, my label says 1 a day. Infer from that as you will. But taking a high quality zinc not only helps the prostate, but also has significant impacts on your immune system, the signaling of your cells. Zinc is critical, particularly right now, okay? All right, so prostate cancer, lots of links to that. Also, prostate cancer screenings. I know they're uncomfortable, but they're very important because you have to catch it early. If you can catch prostate cancer early, it is very treatable, okay? I'm being asked about zinc orotate. Orotate's okay. I don't find that one very regularly out in the marketplace. You know, I typically lean towards bisglycinate and picolinate, but orotate would definitely be better than sulfate or oxide, or oxide and sulfate do nothing, so don't bother. I don't want to spend a ton of time on cancer. I am absolutely going to bring Dr. Jake Pasenka back. If you're watching today, Dr. Jake, they want you back. All right, so let's talk about some of the foods and the importance of diet with the prostate health. And then that kind of leads us into some supplements as well, okay? Is there a risk of prostatitis for Alzheimer's incontinent men wearing pull-ups? Absolutely. Yeah, right, because they're sitting in it. Just like a child in a diaper, you know? Absolutely. All right, fruits and vegetables have absolutely been shown to lower the risk of prostate cancer. It has been documented, it is in research. Plant-based diets are better for the prostate than meat-based diets. Documented, said. All right, polyphenols. What are polyphenols? They're antioxidants, and they're found in a lot of really colorful fruits and veggies. And in fact, polyphenols have been studied quite a bit in regards to the prostate because of their impact. This could be anything from, I'll name some, grapes, apples, pears, cherries, berries, spinach, leafy greens, onions. With the research on BPH, they look a lot more at flax seeds, green tea, and tomatoes, which also have a very high polyphenol content. Those have been shown to have very significant positive impact on the development of BPH. Also, tomatoes are a great one to bring out because they also contain lycopene. Lycopene also is great for the prostate. So anything red, any natural food that is red. You can take supplements for lycopene, but to be honest, if you're eating plants, you should be getting a fair amount of lycopene in general, okay? Vitamin C. We talk about, in fact, it's so funny that I keep coming back. You want to know 3 things that help the prostate that nutritionally? Vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D. We just had this conversation a couple weeks ago when we talked about flu and cold prep. What should you be taking to protect your immune system against invading viruses, against bacteria? What was my answer? Vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D. Same thing goes here. It has great impact against the prostate. I am getting to saw palmetto. Bear with me. I'm trying to rush through for you. I know I've been talking a lot. So vitamin C, cruciferous vegetables. We just talked about broccoli yesterday. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. I love any type of citrus fruit, red, green, yellow bell peppers. Those are all great for vitamin C. I always recommend vitamin C as a supplement as well, because of its impact on your overall health. One of the things to recognize in men, when I talked earlier about stress and how stress impacts the prostate, vitamin C is one of those nutrients that's very rapidly depleted when the adrenal glands are under stress. So anyone who's go running from that bear is probably pushing their vitamin C. So that's why I like to add it in general. And there was a study that I mentioned before. There was a study, all they took was 200 milligrams of vitamin C, which is ridiculously low. And they reduced like their risk of cold and flu by like 50 or something % just from that. Isn't that crazy? Can't remember the exact stat, but it was somewhere right around that arena. Pretty crazy. Some of my favorite foods and herbs for vitamin C, if you wanted to go more plants rather than taking a supplement: plums, cherries, rose hips, chili peppers, guava, black currants. I like thyme, parsley, mustard, spinach, kale, lemons, papaya, strawberries, oranges, all of these really bright red, orange type foods, okay? And those pretty much, if I were to write the list of prostate health foods, which I do have at drpingle.com, you'll see a lot of those in there. Things like cherries, black mustard seeds, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, because we need to talk about zinc, tomatoes, turnips, walnuts, strawberries. Basically, if you can grow it, eat it. And the more colorful, the better. Which vitamin C do I recommend? You know, I'm not overly picky on vitamin C as long as I'm not full of a bunch of other additives. I do have an announcement. I do have a vitamin C coming to my line, hopefully in the next month or so, as well as a vitamin D. So bear with me. If you can wait, it will be there. I promise. So a couple things I want to talk about saw palmetto, which was brought up, stinging nettle, pumpkin seed, vitamin D, and exercise. So as I mentioned earlier, estrogen likes to store in the fat cells. So if you're having trouble with estrogen conversion, and this goes for males or females, making sure that you have more lean muscle mass is very important. Getting exercise, burning those things off, very, very, very important. Try to get moving, okay? Saw palmetto. Saw palmetto is an herb that's in pretty much every single prostate formula out there. It assists in the conversion from testosterone to DHT. So it's a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. So it slows that down. It diverts the body a different direction. So what happens is you have less conversion to DHT. Once again, if you're not paying attention to the other side of that arrow, you can get more estrogen. So you have to do something for estrogen as well. Typically, I use indole 3-carbinol or DIM, sometimes calcium D glucarate, okay? But not all men have this situation, okay? Not all men store estrone. So find out if that's your situation before you start adding all sorts of supplements in. Seems like a waste of money to be taking DIM if you don't need it, okay? So definitely take a look at all of those aspects and then decide. But always remember that testosterone has those two directions it could go. So you need to be paying attention whenever you add anything in, whether it's herbal, whether it's nutritional, whether it's pharmaceutical, you have to pay attention to what happens biochemically at that point. If you don't, you're going to have side effects or other problems from it, right? And that goes for any condition, not just men, okay? I will type how to spell in a moment, okay? Stinging nettle is another one that's very common for BPH because it's a diuretic. So nettles are used a lot for allergies, but they're also used as a urinary diuretic. So often that can help with some of the symptoms having to do with inflammation in that area. Okay, it takes a lot of stress off the prostate. It's an anti-inflammatory. So that's often in those formulations as well. I would absolutely use zinc for sure, without a doubt, because of its strong impact on prostate health, okay? And a lot of people use it just as a pumpkin seed or a pumpkin seed oil. I actually recommend taking it directly if you already have issues. But pumpkin seeds and incorporating those into your diet are absolutely a win-win. Lots of studies on that. There was a 2014 study that showed a reduction in BPH symptoms after 12 months of treatment with pumpkin seed capsules. Then there was another study that did pumpkin seed oil in combination with saw palmetto and found it to be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than conventional treatment. So low levels of zinc have been linked to higher incidence of prostate cancer. So do pay attention to that one. Lastly, sunshine. We need some vitamin D, right? Vitamin D is so important. It's also important for your immune system. It's important for your prostate. So definitely always consider that. So I talked about a ton today. Did you guys keep up? Is emergency drink okay? I'm not a fan of emergency drink, but it's a lot of sugar. I take a little vitamin C crystal where it's like a quarter teaspoon is like 1,000. So I can range anywhere. I can adjust it based on what I need. If my kids get the sniffles, I can go up or down. I'm going to be coming out with a capsule. I did consider a powder for my vitamin C. I didn't think many of you would jump on a powder, so I went with a capsule. Hopefully I was right. If you guys really want a powder, let me know. But so hopefully this shedded a little light on men's physiology, right? Quick review. Check both total and free testosterone levels. Check the estradiol and estrone levels. Check the DHT levels. Definitely look at nutrition and stress. DHEA, cortisol, how much stress is the body under? Are you getting proper nutrition? What's your diet? Are you exercising? For those of you taking testosterone, if you are sitting on the couch taking testosterone, it will absolutely turn into estrogen. If you're going to be someone taking testosterone, you have to be working out and building that muscle. You just have to. You have to be doing something. There's no sedentary testosterone takers, okay, that have any benefit, okay? Menopause, right, also known as andropause. Yeah, it happens to all of us. Ladies, be nice to your men that are going through this. It's hard, right? Just like it's hard on our end. So I always like to educate all of you on what goes on. Happy to answer questions. I know I was fast today. It's just one of those days where I had a lot of information to spill out at you in a very short period of time. You have any further questions, please feel free to write them. Instagram, this does go to IGTV in my feed. You can write questions below it. It'll post right after this. Facebook, obviously, I'll go through and answer all of your questions as well. I see a few that I didn't answer, okay? But I will be back tomorrow. I am pretty certain tomorrow is going to be a question and answer day. Would you guys like that? Q&A, right? Oh, just joining Phoenix Men's Health. I should have brought you on, huh? I'm sorry. You should have been my guest today. We'll do that. But yeah, I really appreciate all of you. Men, I got one for you today. I'll try to come up with another topic that covers everybody on Monday. But tomorrow I'm going to do a Q&A. So come up with your questions, pretty much fair game. I'll answer them if I can. And go take care of those men in your life today. And all of you have a absolutely fabulous Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.